Israel admits 7 to 8 casualties, be-8 tanks after the direction of 240 missiles of Hezbollah in one day. Trump warns of global catastrophe after the Iranian and Israeli strikes. That's the outstanding information. Will be in today's international messaging cluster. It's ours. The following is the detailed content, not beyond the analysts' expectations. Israeli and Lebanese ground offensive operations are paying dearly for both human and material resources. In just one day of combat, the Israeli army lost 8 soldiers, while they continue to suffer more attacks. The rocket is furious from enemy forces. Official announcement on the evening of October 2nd of the Israel Defense Forces. Confirmation of pioneer units in the infantry assault campaign in southern Lebanon. We lost 8 soldiers. There are 3 officers with the rank of captain in just one day clash with the Hezbollah gunmen. This is damage. The 7 heaviest with the Israeli Defense Forces since the beginning of the cross-border war. And it started almost a year ago with the Hezbollah movement. It's not just that. The Israeli Defense Forces are believed to could take be more existing tanks. Makava in skirmishes with Hezbollah forces on the evening of the 2nd of October claims to have destroyed be Makava tanks with rocket. When these heavy armor heading towards the village of Maroun Alvaz, where the heavy fighting took place between the Israel Defense Forces and the Hezbollah. Some Arab sources claim that information of Hezbollah is reliable. The Israeli military has not yet commented. The Israeli Defense Forces confirmed that Hezbollah launched 240 missiles attacks on northern Israel. In 2 tense marks one of the days, the most intense bombardment of Israel by rival armed groups. In there, the worst raid on record took place last night, October 2nd, with about 70 missiles. It's launched from the south on ice, attacked the West Galil area. The Israeli Defense Forces confirmed Hezbollah's raids caused no casualties, but it keeps the sirens going off in a series of neighborhoods along the border. In a related development, acting Prime Minister of Lebanon, Naimi Kaiti, accused of Israeli and Lebanese attacks that caused about 2 million people to leave their homes. Kaiti has called for immediate enforcement, ceasefire between the Israeli army and Hezbollah, and the bloodshed and end the destruction of Lebanon. Head of the Lebanese government expressed hope they can deploy 1,000 soldiers to the southern regions of the country in case a ceasefire is reached. A week later, to launch a massive air campaign never had, condemning the Northern Arrow and the Lyre. From the early morning of September 2nd to the night of September 30th, the Israeli army began deploying ground troops to strike in the southern part of Lebanon, aimed at destroying the base of the Hezbollah, then re-establish security and send 10,000 people to the northern border. Israel returned home. The offensive campaign has been met with strong protests and condemnation of the government, regional countries, and international public opinion. Former US President Donald Trump, he has criticized President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris on October 1st, related to Iran's missile attack on Israel. He also warned that if Harris is elected in November, that could cause massive global chaos. Donald Trump has stated that he talked about the possibility of a third world war for a long time, and the world is getting closer to global catastrophe. Iran has launched a series of missiles at Israel. Now, after the US warned of an imminent attack, the attack quickly ended. Within 1 hour after starting, White House officials said the attack seems to have been defeated, and it doesn't work, and no significant casualties were recorded. The White House National Security Advisor, Jack Sullivan, has called this a serious escalation of Iran against the backdrop of rising tensions in the Middle East. After Iran's missile attacks on October 1st, Trump and his campaign tried to convey the message that the world's leaders no longer respect President Biden and Vice President Harris, leading to an increase in tensions in the Middle East. Trump says if he is re-elected, the attack on Israel will never happen. At the same time, U.S. to withdraw troops from Afghanistan by 2021. The former U.S. president also said that, if you win in November, the world will return to peace, and that if Mrs. Harris wins, the world will burn in flames. The Biden administration is to face many challenges, including the conflict in Ukraine, the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, along with the risk of wide land conflicts. When Israel and Iran confront, President Trump has long said that his hardline foreign policy, it's an effective way to prevent global conflict. Even though it sometimes makes America's allies nervous. When he was president, Trump withdrew the U.S. from the Iran nuclear deal, despite opposition from some allies, and imposed tough sanctions on Iranian hands. His administration has also targeted the leaders of Iran, and the former president frequently warned your opponents of the consequences of attacking the United States or allies. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced that Iran has asked Washington not to intervene after Iran's missile attack targeting strategic targets in Israel. According to information from Reuters and TASS on to Tense, Tasnim news agency quoted Mr. Araghchi as saying, it launched about 180 missiles into Israel on the night of the 1st of October. Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces, Mohammad Bahiri tell me, they attacked to air bases, Israel with the headquarters of the Military Intelligence Agency, according to the American website Aegis. Israeli officials have warned that Tel Aviv will make significant retaliation in the next few days for Iran's missile attack. It could target all production facilities in Iran and other strategic locations, Israel's largest ally. At the same time, the US also believes that Iran's ballistic missile attack on Israel, it was defeated and ineffective. Iran recently, it launched nearly 200 ballistic missiles. The targets in Israel, US military. We are working closely with the Israel Defense Forces to help protect Israel from attacks. This time the US Navy's destroyers joined the Israeli air defense units in firing interceptor missiles to shoot down Iranian missiles. I'm still working with the Israel Defense Forces and the authorities in Israel to assess the impact of the attack. We're also monitoring the consequences of this attack. We haven't received any information yet. Any damage to the plane, US and Israeli military assets. Based on what we know at the moment, this attack seems to have been defeated, and it doesn't work. The United States has successfully cooperated with Israel to protect Israel. We have warned before serious consequences for Iran's attack. We will work with Israel to do that. The White House has issued a statement. President Joe Biden on October 1st, he ordered the US military to support Israel's defense and take measures, stop the Iranian missiles. Biden and Kamala Harris, we are monitoring closely Iran's attack on Israel. From the White House Situation Room, according to information from US officials, the country's destroyers have joined with the Israeli Air Force to respond to the attack with Iran's ballistic missiles. Previously on 1/10, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran announced that they've used domestically produced missiles to launch into strategic locations in Israel. At the same time, this group also claims that this is in Iran's legitimate right of self-defense and comply with international law. Conflict in the Middle East, it's getting really tense after Iran launched an airstrike. Strikes on Israel on the evening of October 1st. According to local time, a few hours later, the Israeli military declared their air force will continue to strike hard across the Middle East. In the night after the attack of Tehran, a statement from the Israeli military, Rear Admiral Donald Hagari said, the Air Force continues to operate at full capacity and will continue to strike hard in the Middle East. We're in high readiness. In defense and attack, we will protect the people of Israel. This attack will have consequences. We had a plan. We will act at the location. At the time we decided. The Air Force continues to operate at full capacity. And tonight, they will continue to strike hard in the Middle East, as it has been all year. An Israeli military spokesman said, "We will act against Iran, or when it's carrying out a missile attack into Israel." At the same time, suppose that Tehran is pushing the Middle East into a state of escalation. Meanwhile, Reuters news agency, sources from the Iranian armed forces, they said they would target the bases and the interests of pro-Israel forces in the area if they directly intervene against the pestilence. The statement stressed that any reaction from Israel for Iran's missile attack, it will lead to massive destruction about the infrastructure of the Jewish state. If Israel reacts without being controlled by the US and Europe, they want to continue the attacks or want to do anything against our sovereignty and territorial integrity. The airstrike operation will be repeated many times more powerfully, and their entire infrastructure will be targeted.